What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's your host, Brent Bilski, a.k.a. Double B, a.k.a. the 110 Soldier. Of course, Super Bowl Sunday!
Super Bowl time.
Oh, yes, we're all excited. I have my prediction. I've told you it before. I'll tell you it again, but I'll get into the breakdown of it. I'm more interested on if and when the Chiefs actually pull it off. Where does that put Mahomes versus Brady on GOAT Mountain? Because that, to me, is actually a debate as far as analysis goes. I think y'all know where I stand with that, but I will explain it more, and we will talk Super Bowl Sunday, I promise you. But we got to kick things off with the big thing that happened this week, and so exciting as I'll hit the first picture. Oh my God. NBA trade deadline. I mean, Dionne Warwick couldn't see this shit coming. Holy cow. This was one of the more nuts trades deadlines we've had in a long time in the NBA. I think it is indicative of the fact that this was a year of a lot of parity. With so many teams close, like I've said before, desperation is a stinky, stinky cologne. And it hurts when you feel like we're one piece away, we're one here, we're one there. And so many teams made moves. It really was bananas. I mean, obviously the headline that everyone's been talking about, Luka is now a Laker. Luka Magic, as he got moved to the Los Angeles Lakers over this last week as a 25-year-old, five-time all-first-team NBA absolute stud for just Anthony Davis in a first-round pick, which has a lot of people going, what in the F actually happened in Los Angeles? I have my theories on that. They also, by the way, added the big they were looking for, 7'1" Williams they got for Dalton Connect and some other pieces there. So the Lakers really made the hugest waves by far over the trade deadline, but they were far from the only ones. In case you missed it, besides Luka going to LA, AD going to the Mavs, Kyle Kuzma's a buck. I want to talk about that. They Milwaukee sent Chris Middleton and AJ Johnson out of their way. They got back, of course, Mr. Kuzma himself, Baldwin Jr. and Jericho Sims. Also picked up KPJ in a short trade as well, so the Bucks made some big moves. The Kings, I think, went down. They got Valanciunas and Zach LaVine, but they've lost their last couple. Zach LaVine I like, but for who they had to let go of, De'Aaron Fox is now a San Antonio Spur. Definitely want to break that down in a three-team trade with the Kings and Bulls. Chicago got their first pick back, Jones and Herter. Kings got LaVine, 3 firsts, 3 seconds, but the Spurs got the Fox, and I got a lot to say about that, pun intended. Ding, 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 ding-a-ding-a-ding. That's a huge, huge trade a lot of y'all are sleeping on. The Suns basically stayed pat. Kevin Durant was very heavily rumored, almost to my Golden State Warriors. They ended up keeping him. Beal didn't go anywhere because there was no trade clause, but they did trade Nurkic, and they had to lose a first-round pick in the process just to bring back Cody Martin, so I thought the Suns actually kind of made some odd moves there. The Cavs shocked me at 41-10, and clearly the best team, at least in the Eastern Conference, get DeAndre Hunter. They traded Karis LeVert Niang and some second-round picks there for DeAndre Hunter. I thought that was a big move. And Atlanta was not done. Another kind of contender. This is what I'm talking about, these mid-level teams. The LA Clippers, currently in 7th, 28-23, got Bogdanovich from Atlanta for Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, and 3 second-round picks. The Pistons got a few plays and moves here made. The Pistons got Dennis Schroeder, who after the Jimmy Butler trade, which I'll discuss here, that's now his 8th total trade in his career, 3 in 24-hour period, and he compared it to modern-day slavery, which I will get into.
The shit.
We will talk about that stupid statement he made a little later in the show here as far as calling the NBA trade deadline slave labor, whatever. The Grizzlies also dealt Marcus Smart and a first-round pick for 2 second-round picks. I thought that was very kind of a weird move by the Memphis Grizzlies, who at 35-16 look like they're pretty much in a good place to contend. The Raptors got Brandon Ingram, PJ Tucker, and James Wiseman. Made a lot of moves for being in 13th place and 16-25, in my opinion. And the Pelicans only got back for Brandon Ingram, Bruce Brown, Olynyk, a first and a second-round pick, which is kind of odd, but I guess Brandon Ingram is a rental, so that might explain that. He's only a 1 year because of his contract, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, the Warriors, and the other big move besides Luka, got Jimmy Butler from Miami in a 4-team, 7-player trade. Utah and the Pistons were involved. We had to let go of Andrew Wiggins in Golden State, slow-mo, 1 protected first, which went to Miami, and that, of course, sent Schroeder out there to Detroit after he went to Utah. Lindy Waters as well went to Detroit. But, I mean, God, recap here. Luka's Luka's in the LA, AD's in Dallas, Kyle Kuzma's a Buck, the Kings get Valanciunas and Zach LaVine, but the Spurs got De'Aaron Fox. The Suns did not move KD or Beal and instead traded Nurkic for Cody Martin. The Cavs made a shocking move in getting DeAndre Hunter from Atlanta, and then Atlanta also traded Bogdanovich to the LA Clippers. The Pistons got Schroeder. The Grizzlies dealt Marcus Smart. The Raptors get Brandon Ingram, PJ Tucker, and Wiseman. The Warriors get Jimmy Butler. I mean, good God. Running out of breath here, man. That's a lot of moves. And again, indicative of the idea that this was a year of parity and so many teams so close. It's hard, man. It's hard not to take that bite and go ahead and throw your fishing line out there and see what you could do. So a lot of these guys made those moves, and I thought they were very interesting. So I want to discuss which ones I really think make an impact and which ones don't, which ones are smart, which ones aren't. But before I do all that, I got to at least tell you the story of how to kind of look at all this, because a lot of people are going to react one way or the other. You're going to have an opinion. You're going to say, this trade was great. This trade was stupid. Why'd you do this? Why didn't you do that? And if there's any lesson I can teach you about the trade deadline, I want you to listen to me. Come here. The trade deadline and life lesson I want to teach you and give you a warning before you overreact is you got to first get to know and understand the concept of we'll see. This has changed my life in a lot of different ways and is so perfectly apropos to explain the trade deadline and kind of how you should think about things. I call it the story of we'll see, or AKA the story of the old Chinese farmer. Mateo, if you can hit this video here for me. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, this is how you should look and think about the trade deadline and how you react to it. The story of we'll see and the old Chinese farmer plays a lot into life. So the story goes, 500 years ago, there was a struggling farmer, his young son, and his last horse. One day, his last horse runs off. Now he has nothing left to plow the fields. The villagers come up and go, oh my God, you lost your last horse. Isn't this terrible? Old man says, we'll see. The next day, though, that horse comes back. Turns out it had sniffed out a mare, and now it comes back with a second horse. Villagers come back to the old man and go, oh my God, you don't have one, you have two horses. This is awesome. Old man just says, we'll see. Well, the new horse is wild. The son tries to train it. There's a horrible accident. Son loses his leg. Villagers come back. Oh my God, your son lost his leg. This is terrible. What bad luck. Old man just says, we'll see. A month later, the cavalry shows up, an army, and says, we're going into battle. We need every able-bodied young man we can have. We need your son. Old man goes, hey, my son's missing a leg, so he doesn't have to go to the battle where they all went on to die. Villagers come back and say, oh my God, you're so lucky. Old man just says, we'll see. The moral of the story is good or bad is perception, and only time can tell you the final story of what is good or what is bad. The NBA trade deadline is no different. 2019, the Clippers thought they had the next dynasty. Remember, they got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and all they had to do was send some picks away and a little guy named SGA, and next thing you know, they have never been the same. The 96 Rockets, hey, we're going to three-peat. We just got Charles Barkley. Ended up next year losing to the Utah Jazz, never were the same after that. 2021 Lakers, we got Mr. Triple-Double. We got Russell Westbrook. This is awesome. We're going to do awesome, aren't we? No, you're not. You're going to struggle for the next few years. 2013 Celtics, the fans went nuts. We traded away Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. What are we thinking? Why? For some picks? Well, those picks ended up being Tatum and Brown and became the next part of your franchise. 1987 Sonics, hey, we got a great player in Olden Paulies. All we had to do was trade our fifth pick and some guy named Scottie Pippen from Central Arkansas. And in 1996, hey, Vlade is still good. Why did we trade him for this high school hotshot ball hog named Kobe Bryant? You never know how things are going to pan out. You have to let time do its thing and play its course. We'll see how all this goes. Now, that being said, I'm going to overreact and I'm going to make my reactions because that is actually part of what we have to do here as a podcaster and on this show. So let's start off with the first one here, as I'm going to highlight 3 or 4 moves I thought were the most impactful and crucial in this trade deadline, this very crazy trade deadline. And I got to start with the San Antonio Spurs. De'Aaron Fox, a Spur with Wemby. Dude, that is so tough. That's apparently a Fox sound, I guess. But the Spurs getting Fox is not a small move. That is a holy shit seismic move to me on almost the level of Luka Doncic. I think it's right below that of like, man, that is a huge piece, a perfect fit for Victor Wembanyama. And I mean, they are, only 3 games out of 8th place right now. If you can hit this video here for me, they got Wemby for the next 3 years. Fox is only 27 years old. Y'all got to remember, I think he's been slept on a lot. Now, they've already had a game where he beat Atlanta in his debut. debut, 24 points, 13 assists, and looked great. But De'Aaron Fox is that dude, man. A lot of y'all maybe sleep on this kid, and I don't because we had to play them against the Warriors so many times. I got so sick of watching him just be a one-man wrecking crew. He might be the most underrated guard in the NBA. He's a 2023 All-Star. He averaged 25 points and 6 assists the last 4 of 5 full seasons. He's a career 22-6 scorer. He's All-NBA. He was the steals leader and clutch player of the year and an All-Star in 2023. The 2017 5th overall pick. I don't know what the Kings were thinking. I mean, look, I like Zach LaVine. I think he's a very talented scorer, but I don't think he's a game changer or somebody who's a difference maker. Fox is a difference maker, and the Spurs now have him with Wemby. Dude, they got their core intact. To let you know, Wemby's under the next couple years still on his rookie contract, so he's cheap. They can now extend Fox after this year to an extension to put those two together for a very long time, and they'll still be under the cap in 2025, 2026, and next year's NBA draft, San Antonio Spurs have 4 first-round picks and 2 lottery picks. They have so many picks, they don't even know what to do with. They have 2 lottery picks now with a young 27-year-old De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama. They are, again, moving up the Western Conference. They're almost in they're only 3 games out of 8th place. That is a perfect move. That is a 1-2 punch that's going to be a pain in the ass for the rest of the Western Conference for a while. And then whether they draft more young talent and use that with a couple lottery picks they're supposed to have next year, where it's like estimated 10th and 11th right now in a loaded draft class, or they trade more of those away, or they use some of the money they have free to get big free agents. De'Aaron Fox is a stud. He's an all-star. He is so underrated. I cannot believe the Spurs picked him up for what they did. And the Kings, man, I think y'all set yourself backwards with the LaVine move. I like LaVine, but now you don't even have a point guard. I think LaVine is a good third scorer on another team. I don't think he should be the man. Fox, to me, is that level. Fox can be the man, and with him and Wemby in a pick and roll, what the F? I mean, that is the fastest dude in the league, arguably, and the tallest, most athletic freak in the league, and you put those together, that is holy shit. I think the Spurs made a humongous stride making this trade, and I think their future is arguably even brighter than the Rockets, which might upset a lot of people out there in Texas. But, dude, to me, it's seismic. I think the Fox move was humongous. So I had to throw that out there. Shout out to the Spurs and Fox. I think Popovich is finally going to come back from his stroke and everything, so he'll be ready to go. Great coach, great youth, great core. They got clutch, they got height, they got it all. Spurs look good. Spurs look ready to roll. On another overreaction, let me throw this out here. This one I think you all slept on, and I'm going to call you out for it. I think everyone slept on this. The Bucks may start their run here, because I think Kyle Kuzma is somebody very interesting to me and someone I've been wanting to see get on a contender ever since his, championship run in 2020. I don't count the bubble championship. I'm sorry. It was cute, but it wasn't a championship. But it is, at least playoff experience. And since then, he's been stuck in Washington. I've been very curious to see what Kuzma in his prime could do with a contender. And sure enough, they got it done, shipping away only Middleton and a pick swap. That is a steal, in my opinion, with Middleton not playing, the last, he hasn't played 70 games in the last 5 seasons in a row. If you can hit the video here for me, the Bucks may have found a nice big 3 because Kuzma is a scorer. 21 points a game the last 2 seasons. He's only 29 years old, and he's cheap, $23 million. But the Bucks currently are 27-22 after a slow start. They're 5th in the Eastern Conference, but they're top-heavy, especially offensively. Giannis is almost 32 points per game. Dame is 25.1, but then it dips off a cliff to Portis at 13.6. Kyle Kuzma, 6'9", 29 years old. Absolute scoring machine. 33% career three-point shooter. He has had a 40.7-7 game this year and 2 game winners as well, with 30 points sprinkled in here, 36 sprinkled in there. The dude can absolutely get it done on all parts of the court, and I'm curious with, an opportunity to contend after being just left in Washington to rot for a while. Does it give him the motivation to do some of the things he doesn't always do that great? Defense, hustle, fight, show a little bit more intensity. Sometimes him and Jordan Poole would have just crazy offs out there in Washington. This will be a much more organized situation for him. But damn it, the Bucks might start here a run that is significant because Cleveland is great, but then you got New York underneath, and it's kind of up for grabs after that as who else could be a big contender. That is a nice big 3 for a team that, before this was top-heavy, now has a third actual option to score and definitely knows how to do that. He's young, he's motivated, and he's cheap. I think the Bucks made the biggest steal not named Fox or Luka in this entire trade deadline, and is probably the most slept on of the group because A, it's Kuzma, has been in Washington, and B, it's Milwaukee, and let's face it, most people outside of Milwaukee don't give a shit about Milwaukee, other than when you bring up Wayne's World, they give you the Milwaukee, which of course is Algonquin for the good land, if I can quote the great Alice Cooper correctly there. But that was, again, the biggest second move, in my opinion, other than De'Aaron Fox. And now I got to talk about the big one here. And, man, people had a lot to say about this one.
I am a dumb.
Hit the picture here for me, Mateo. Luka is a Laker. And Dallas Mavericks fans are not happy. And I don't even blame them, because I think the first question, even after the explanation of some of the reasons that everybody has covered now, if you followed anything, if you're watching this show, I'm sure you've watched NBA trade deadline discussion, and they have had all sorts of excuses, Nico and the crew, about, oh, it's his weight, it's conditioning, and I will get into that. But no matter what you say, what's driving Dallas fans nuts, what's driving me nuts, other media members nuts, is how do you end up with Luka being traded at 25 years old, 5-time All-Star, 5-time NBA first team, 2024 scoring champ, and arguably a top 4 Rushmore player currently in the NBA. How do you only get one pick? One pick? One goddamn pick for Luka Doncic? I mean, Anthony Davis at 31 years old? That is bananas. I mean, to give you at least some reference here, you know, Gobert got 4 picks. Anthony Davis, when he was traded before this, they had to give up 3 first-round picks. Mikal Bridges got 5 first-round picks being traded to New York. How the hell do you only end up with 1 pick in Anthony Davis for a 25-year-old Luka? It made no sense to the entire world, and this press conference was hilarious. Obviously, I got Luka playing the ghost of Kiss My Ass Past, being like, hey, Nico, how did this work out for you? But, I mean, when they cut to Jason Kidd, that was hilarious when they're like, oh, no, we spoke about this with Jason and everything else. He's like, dude, don't bring me in your mess. Don't bring me in your mess.
I am a dumb.
You take your stupid move here and you go somewhere else with that, because it's hard. It's hard to swallow, pause if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, because Nico Harrison, a.k.a. Jerry Jones, hold my beer, you got to remember the general manager now of the Mavericks was also a product rep for Nike and a representative. He's the one responsible for screwing up the Steph Curry pitch back in 2013. A lot of people don't know this. Back in 2013, Steph was not part of Under Armour. He wanted to go to Nike, and Nico, the now general manager of the Mavericks, held the meeting to kind of recruit him, the pitch meeting. He accidentally called him Seth at one point, according to the story. He played a Kevin Durant video. They didn't even have Steph's own video package. Steph goes on to Under Armour and makes $1 bajillion for them instead of being part of Nike, and that everybody now blames Nico Harrison. So he's already had a reputation for screwing up big deals, and this one, it's hard because I don't know when he'll get another big deal like this to screw up if he keeps his job, because you only get a Luka once in a lifetime. He really is truly a generational talent. Now, Nico, of course, said, hey, man, defense wins championships. That's why we made this move. Defense wins championships. We're adding Anthony Davis, even at 31 years old, and injury issues from his history, because he exemplifies the culture. He exemplifies the culture of defense first. That's what Mavericks basketball is going to be about. That's what Coach Kidd wants us to be about. That's what management of Buzzme wants to be about. And, that's the other thing, too. They did say, though, and that's why the conspiracy stuff is really kicking in, that there was pressure from above. Colin Cowherd actually said this the other day. He said he talked to someone inside Mavericks camp there, and they said that Nico only did the bidding of the owners above him, because there are conspiracy theories here, and they run very rampant because it's hard to explain. Anthony Davis and a pick for Luka makes no damn sense, at least on paper, at 25 years old, other than the money that Luka might get paid, which I will also discuss. But let me get real quick into the conspiracies. There's been a few of them. One of the biggest ones that's made its rounds, as people love to put on those tinfoil hats, is that the Dallas Mavericks, it came from above Nico. It came from the owners, because they want to go to Vegas.
Vegas, baby, Vegas!
That they want to tank the Dallas Mavericks, at least to threaten, because the new owners, it's no longer Cuban, it's the Adelsons, and they are a Vegas-based casino family who wanted to set up some resort-style casino stuff in Texas. And, I mean, apparently Dan Patrick, not the radio guy, the lieutenant governor, has no He just doesn't want to do it. He does not want to bring gambling into Texas. I'm from Texas. We're a very fun state, but we can also be quite silly. Gambling is a no-no, but you can shoot each other. Just don't bet on it. We can get into that. That's another discussion for another day. But the theory goes that apparently they want to get casinos in Dallas. Therefore, let's tank the Dallas Mavericks, a la threaten that we will take them to Las Vegas if you don't give us our casinos. And it's this whole big conspiracy in order to move them either to Vegas or get the casinos they want in Dallas. So that's conspiracy theory number 1. Conspiracy theory 2 is one that a lot of people have kind of brought up but need to focus on a little bit more. He was eligible now for the Supermax. Now, this is a new thing in the NBA, started about 5 years ago. They call it the Supermax extension. And for 5 years, you get 35% of your team's payroll. For Luka, that would be $350 million over the next 5 years. That is not a little bit. That is significant money there. And they thought that he might be too expensive with the Supermax at anywhere from 68 to 70 million over the next 5 years and 35% of the team's salary, considering some of his off-the-court issues. Another thing that was brought up, defensive liability. This one is pretty much duh. Luka has never been in the best shape. He's always been kind of, NBA Finals. Go back and watch the Brian Windhorst review of the NBA Finals postgame. He was ripping Luka a new one. People have such short-term memories. I remember Windhorst going like, Jesus Christ, Luka is killing this team personally because he is just a defensive sieve. He's a hole out there. They have to make up for this guy, and he's not even putting in the effort. This is not indicative of a guy who wants to win a title, yada, yada, yada. I will say, though, that he's only 25, been able to at least reinvest a little bit when he's been healthy so far this year on the defensive end. The Mavericks as a team are 11th in defensive rating, and Luka is tied 13th with Jalen Suggs for steals, so at least there seems to be some effort being made by him this year. And the last theory that was brought up as to why Nico would do this for such little back in return was that he's a flight risk, that if he says no to the Supermax, that then he would be a free agent in 2026. And that was a rumor that the agents may have said they've now declined or denied all this and said we never would have done that. We would have signed it. But apparently there's, rumblings behind closed doors saying that no, Luka was thinking about leaving anyways. And so we had to get something for him. And, he can't let him go just for nothing. Not a player like him. We had to trade him while we could, which kind of makes sense. But again, how do you not shop him? That is the question everyone had. Why do you not shop him to the world? Why do you not say, hey, we're getting rid of Luka? Who wants to pay us some money? Because, again, if you're getting 5 first-round picks for Bridges, if we're getting 4 for Gobert, if we're getting 3 for this guy, 3 for Anthony Davis and other people before, what the hell are you going to give us for a 25-year-old Luka Doncic? And instead they got nothing but AD and a first. It still doesn't make quite that much sense overall. I guess, of course, too, I'll throw in the last conspiracy. Some people were saying, hey, this was brought on actually by Commissioner Silver. This is kind of a fun one, too, that he did this on purpose, that it came from that high up. And they said, hey, we need the Lakers to be good again. Send Luka, send Shockwave. Definitely brought a lot of attention to the NBA. So that's all the big ones. They might go to Vegas. It at least was a threat. He might be too expensive. Of course, the defense. Adam Silver made the call. None of it makes sense as far as on paper of what happened, except for this. And I will say, a lot of y'all don't really give enough flack to Luka and everyone involved in this because of his weight. And I think it's a sensitivity thing. But Mateo, if you can hit this for me. I'm sorry, I got to say it. Luka is a weight liability, and I think the Mavericks were worried they didn't want to take a fat chance with a fat contract.
Telling me to lose weight. Oh, I'm a hot case, he said.
I don't think the Mavs wanted to take a fat chance with such a fat contract. Luka, just so you know, is listed at 6'7", 230, and the latest rumbling said Luka was rumored to be pushing 270 pounds. That is a big boy. That is a big boy. Now, the Lakers picture I saw, he didn't look that big, but if he was, and he has been up 265, 270 pounds, to give you at least the concept of how big that actually is, of the 20 players in the NBA, 265 pounds or above, let me repeat that. Of the 20 players currently in the NBA, 265 pounds or above, The only one that is also Luka's height at around 6'7" is Zion Williamson, and the rest are all power forwards and centers. They're all big guys. Luka and Zion would be the only ones in the entire NBA at their height pushing 270 pounds. There is a difference between fat for us, the rest of the United States, and fat for an NBA player, and I get very annoyed with people sensitive to body shaming, and you can't say the word fat. For the NBA, Luka is fat. Zion is fat. Jokic is fat. There is a difference between us and how we look and how we are perceived in the world versus how an NBA player who's going to get paid maybe $70 million to play a year treats his body. In the NBA, I would be in horrible shape. I would be the fattest fatty you've seen in the entire NBA. I would be out of shape. Luka is out of shape, and when you consider the money that he's supposed to make, and as a star player, he has not worked on his conditioning, and it's not wrong to say it. It's not wrong to call him that as far as for what he is, the league he represents, and the players. Just so you know, 6'7", 270 pounds, if that was actually a factual report, means he's about 20% body fat. The average NBA player is only 13%, and most guards and forwards his size are actually under 10% body fat. 6'7", 270 is big for the NBA. It may not be big for life. It may not be big for, regular walking around weight, but 6'7", 270 in the NBA is horribly overweight. If I was in the NBA, like I said, I think I look pretty normal shape. I would be horribly overweight. There's a difference between us and the NBA when it comes to body types and what you need to expect, and especially considering the money that they get paid to do it. This is their job to stay in shape. Luka, for years, has had weight struggles, and I'm finally seeing it come out because, man, I used to argue this going back 5 years ago. Now, finally, all the reports are coming out. 2020, when Luka admitted after the pandemic, man, I'm not in my best shape. I don't look that great. I'm a little bit overweight. 2021, same problems. He's like, yeah, I got to do better, but I'll play my way into it. 2023, the Mavs asked him again, dude, lower your playing weight. They actually had to have a meeting with him. Dude, you are too overweight. You're getting away with it because of your talent, but you got to lose some weight. And then 2024, a lot of people have seen the video again. He's having a beer post game. Finley had to snatch it out of his hand, be like, bro, you're supposed to be the star player. You're not supposed to be drinking beer. And now in the same season, 2024, or 2025 now, he got the calf strain, which, things can happen, but a lot of people are saying that calf strain came because he was eating too much, he's overweight, he's not taking care of himself, and it's going to become even more of a problem as the years go on. Luka is out of shape. Great player, generational, gets away with it, but it is what it is. So, he also got 3 conditioning coaches fired. I think that's worth mentioning, too, as far as bringing up the weight issues. Luka actually got 3 conditioning coaches fired just a couple years ago who he said they were, quote, everyone that he likes, and probably because they kissed his ass and didn't really give him a hard diet or a hard, just saying, hey, you got to do this. But 5 years, $345 million deal is hamstringing and really anchoring your team to a guy. It would be the largest deal in NBA history. 35% of the payroll. Then you throw in Kyrie Irving's 42, which is like another 20%. Those 2 players would be over half of your payroll. And now, because they didn't do that deal and Anthony Davis is out, or at least he's the only one left remaining in like 2027, they have a lot of money and things to play with other than be anchored to a guy who in a few years might literally be an anchor if he doesn't take care of his weight. And I also have to point this out, Mavericks fans, you can get mad at me all you want because this is the other argument I've heard about it was crazy to trade Luka because of his weight or whatever. He's still a great player. Y'all have got to let go of that finals run. That was a fluke at best. I don't know how to explain this any better. I'm sorry. That was a cute little run. That was a fluke a couple years ago. You beat Harden and Paul George, a very, top-heavy, not that great Clippers team in round 1. You beat a very young Oklahoma City Thunder. That is no longer the case. I don't think you'd beat Oklahoma City this year. You beat a young and top-heavy Minnesota, and that's only because they upset the Denver Nuggets, and so you got an easy road as far as to the actual finals. Then you played some real competition in the Boston Celtics. You got smoked 4-1. You lost those games by an average of 10 points or more. You're currently in 8th place at 27-25. You're 14.5 games behind Oklahoma City. Y'all have got to quit it with, oh man, he led them to a finals run. It was fluky. It was a lot of things had to work out. A lot of dominoes had to fall in order for you to make that finals run. I don't think that's indicative of what they would do this year, actually, if they would have kept Luka. So, all that being considered and put together, I got to throw up, we'll see in Los Angeles. He should be, he's starting to practice, and he's been seeing some videos. Him and LeBron, of course, are friends. They're getting along. If you can get the video here for me, Mateo. Can Luka carry the weight of the expectations is something we'll still need to see. I mean, this drill says it all. 5 years, $70 million a year? You want to put 35% of your contract in that guy? He's a great player. I'm not arguing that. He's all-world. He's top 4. He's only 25 years old. He's a 5-time All-Star, NBA first team, Rookie of the Year, scoring champ. He's the Mavs leader in triple-doubles. He's the Mavs leader in points per season. But I'll give you 2 names that was in the previous picture that should at least be a warning if you thought it would have been a good idea and why the Mavericks may have hesitated. Zion Williamson, Joel Embiid. 2 other young guys who started off great in their youth, but then didn't take care of themselves. Conditioning became an issue, and then injuries became an issue. Luka's missed almost 20 games this year with injuries. Zion was a number 1 pick, 2-time All-Star, signed his 5-year, $193 million deal, 2022. They can't trade him now. He can't stay in shape. He's become a big problem. Joel Embiid out there in Philly. He's been a 7-time All-Star, an MVP. He signed his Supermax 4-year deal, 2022, for $213 million. Philly cannot get out of that contract. It has continued to become an issue for Philadelphia. And as a team, I do agree with some people saying, how do you hold your players accountable when this guy is the top guy, and this guy has had multiple reports over the last 5 seasons of not taking care of himself, of not eating right, of not keeping himself in shape? How does that trickle down then to the rest of the Mavericks roster? And yes, you made the finals a couple years ago, but I will reiterate, that was a fluky run. I don't think you could repeat, even right now, if Luka was in shape, between having to beat the hardened Clippers, a young OKC. We only got Minnesota because Denver was upset, and then when you played the Celtics, you got smoked. I don't think you're like right there, as a lot of Mavericks fans wanted to believe that they were. I will definitely be curious to see how Luka reacts and behaves in Los Angeles with the LeBron James, who pays literally $1 million to take care of his body. Is he now motivated? Is this finally the kick in the ass that Luka has needed for a very long time to take care of himself and keep himself in shape, because he's so pissed off that everyone's talking about it? I'm just glad the lid has been finally blown off that thing, because that's been my biggest annoyance for like 5 years. I remember years ago having an argument with some guy who was a Mavericks fan, being like, look, I get it for the rest of us. Luka's fat.
Telling me to lose weight.
Yeah, Luka's fat. In the NBA, Luka is a, quote-unquote fat guy. It's not body shaming when they're getting paid $70 million, and that is literally their job to take care of things. You're allowed to look at them and be like, man, that ain't it. That ain't the conditioning a top 4 player is supposed to be as far as going forward. And just because he's 25 and getting away with it now, he could be the next Zion or Joel Embiid, and not so much in the future. So, had to throw that out there. It is still crazy, though. I can't believe Luka is gone from Dallas. Neither can Dallas fans. It's all nuts. In another one, the last NBA trade deadline one I want to discuss, Jimmy Butler, pop this up here for me, is now on my Golden State Warriors, and I got to give credit to Jimmy. He did it again. He did it again. Some bitch. I'll tell you what. I've always rooted for Jimmy Butler. I find him funny and very, a great competitor when he's in the right mood. But he got to the Golden State Warriors because he got suspended 3 times in just 1 month in Miami, and that is now his 4th team that he's been kicked out of for being a malcontent and just a pain in the ass when he doesn't want to be there anymore. I don't think it's the greatest lesson ever that we've learned in life, that if you want to just get to a new place and a better destination, just act like Jimmy Butler, which is a complete jackass, and you'll get moved from team to team to team that you want to go to. But he was able to figure it out. He's now with Golden State. Poor Pat Riley. That guy just tried to, bring in some culture to Miami and keep it there, and they're just not having it. Jimmy said, I'm going to miss flights. I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk shit on Instagram. I'm going to do all stuff. And next thing you know, he's a Golden State Warrior, and boy, do we need him. Jimmy and the Warriors, I got to bring up let me break it down here for you, because they both got lucky. Jimmy and the Warriors both got lucky with this deal. Golden State, this was their last option. They were pushing for Kevin Durant, according to all the rumors, and Kevin Durant said no. Kevin Durant said, I don't want to come back. F Draymond, F your system. I don't like the fans, too. They didn't give me enough credit for when we won. I don't want to go back to Golden State. And Golden State was really in a panic of like, dude, we need to make a move this year. Steph is running out of time, 37 in a month. What are we going to do? They were able to find Jimmy Butler, who, again, was being just a jackass in Miami, for a great price, in my opinion. We did not lose some of the core guys that I was really panicked as a Warriors fan they would lose. Guys like Gary Payton and Kevon Looney. Everyone talks about they didn't have to trade trade Brandon Pajemski and Jonathan Kuminga in their future, and all that's great. But to me, those other guys, those, glue guys, those chemistry guys were just invaluable. So not losing Looney or Payton when that was rumored through all the trade deadlines was absolutely great for me. And yes, we did have to give up Wiggins, Slow-Mo, Schroeder, Waters, and a first-round pick. But, again, for the level of a Jimmy Butler, sorry, Andrew, nothing personal, but for personal reasons, I brought this up in a previous podcast. The Warriors had to let you go, man. Andrew Wiggins is a great guy from everything I hear, but he had a lot of ups and downs. He was very crucial, of course, in the 2022 championship. He was an absolute stud in those finals. Kerr even had a beautiful send-off after he found out pregame that he was going to be traded. Afterwards said, look, Andrew's a wonderful human being, a beautiful soul, and he's a nice guy from everything I've heard, and he loves to put his family first. That's his priorities. That's where his interests lie, and all that's great. But for the last couple of years, man, I know everything that happened. I know what happened now. It's all come out with Andrew Wiggins and his family and his father. He missed 56 games over the last 2 seasons, and those weren't just the only games that he missed. He also missed a couple this year now because he wanted to have his 3rd child. He's missed games on back-to-back. Dude, he misses a lot of games, and then when he comes back, a lot of times he's not, in game shape, and he doesn't play that well. He's just too inconsistent. All I hear is a very nice guy, and that's awesome. Andrew, I wish you all the luck in the world. I hear you're a wonderful human being, and I will reiterate what Kerr said. You're a wonderful human being, beautiful soul, but you had to go, so for personal reasons, bye-bye, Andrew. Better luck in Miami. I think Miami could really use you, and you could use a fresh start. And Jimmy Butler is a huge-ass risk. I am not going to pretend that Jimmy Butler is not a huge risk when you already have Draymond Green and a Warriors team that could go either direction. And there's a great phrase when it comes to guys like Jimmy Butler that I'll use right here. When the chicken shit outweighs the chicken, get rid of the chicken. Meaning that if there is too much waste being brought on by this chicken, stop cleaning up the chicken shit. Just get rid of the chicken. If the chicken shit outweighs the chicken, get rid of the chicken. 4 teams now have gotten rid of the chicken in Jimmy Butler. Take that phrase with you. It's a very useful one. But 4 times now Jimmy has forced his way off a team. Going back to the Bulls, 2011 to 2016. At the end of it, he had contract disputes. He was fighting with Derrick Rose, Noah, the coach. He finally gets traded to Minnesota for Levine Dunn and a 7th-round pick. In Minnesota, he only makes it from 2017 to 2018 because a month in, he starts getting in the fights. He's doing post-game interviews saying, I'm glad we lost today. He got in a very famous, after demanding a trade, he showed up at a practice he wasn't invited to, played with the second team, was kicking the first team's butt, telling the general manager the whole time, cussing at him until they finally traded him to Philadelphia, where again, he only lasted 1 year, where he played 55 games, and then he got in a fight with Coach Brown over his role, and once again had to be traded. Then he goes to Miami, which was 2019 until now, and things were going good. He had some finals runs, but then over the last month, he got suspended 3 different times in a month for, missing flights, missing practices, doing stupid social media posts, and all sorts of things in between.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
Jimmy Butler's an interesting cat, man, and when he doesn't want to be somewhere, he really doesn't want to be somewhere, and it's very volatile, and it's a huge risk for Golden State to take him on, but all things considered, what they had to give up, what they didn't have to give up, and what could be possible in this last little 2-year window, I actually like the Jimmy Butler move, and maybe it's the homer in me thinking this can really work out. But I think usually in a new change of scenery where he has a contender and good leadership, Jimmy is actually all the things that you want him to be, and Jimmy can fit like a glove in Golden State. If you can hit this video here for me, Mateo. I actually think the most important part of having Jimmy Butler be a Golden State Warrior, if he can behave, is he gets them closer as a closer. Jimmy is clutch. Jimmy has always been clutch. 6-time All-Star, 5-time defensive team. Led the 8-seed Miami Heat to the finals. A lot of us know that now, but he plays up for big games. His career averages are 18, 5, and 4. Jimmy averaged 27, 7, and 5 in the last 2 playoffs. And the style of play, the way the Warriors play, as you see the highlights here, is exactly what Jimmy does. He cuts, he moves, he's off ball. He's an elite scorer off the ball. And he knows how to, find the holes and do little things here and there to get open and find things. That is what the Warriors offense is based around. It's not a pick and roll, stand in the corner offense. It's moving, it's cutting. That's what Jimmy Butler does very, very well. And the Warriors, more than anything, need a second closer so damn bad. Once again, the Golden State Warriors are number 1 in the league in most clutch games played. 5 points, 5 minutes left. They have played 32 of those games out of 51 total, and they are only 16-16 in those 32 clutch games. If they won just 6 more of those, they'd be in 4th place. They are also, fun fact, 26th in those clutch game minutes in the entire NBA in scoring. So they are not able to close out games currently because they can't score and they can't finish off a game. Jimmy Butler is a lot of things. He's malcontent when he doesn't want to be there. He's silly, but he's also a competitor. He's a defensive absolute juggernaut. He is a little bit older, but he knows how to score off off-ball cuts, and he is clutch as can be. He can definitely be the second option that Steph Curry needs. Also, when they do that stupid thing in the fourth quarter, Warriors fans know this, they'll sit Curry in the middle of the fourth quarter. That could be perfect time for Jimmy Buckets to do his thing, which is the thing he did in Miami, take him to an NBA Finals, because he knows how to close out a game. If nothing else, that's what Jimmy could do for Golden State Warriors. If he behaves and him and Draymond get along, that is exactly what will happen, hopefully. And I think that at least for the immediate future, this is a good move. This was a great idea. Kevin Durant didn't want to be here in the first place. I think Jimmy Butler could actually work as a closer to help them get closer for the Golden State Warriors, who are really that damn close to still being able to make a run, in my opinion. I still think they're right there. All right, one more thing about chicken shit outweighing the chicken. I hate having to bring this up, but I'm gonna. Dennis Schroeder, now a new Piston. Hit this picture here for me. This is ridiculous. Dennis Schroeder, look, you got traded a lot. He's been traded 8 times in his career, 3 times in the last 24 hours of the trading deadline. He's been overseas, 7 teams in 4 different seasons. But when you compare NBA being traded as a player to slavery, what do you want me to say? That's a great point. It's not. It's stupid. And it really sucks for Dennis because it kind of overlooks and overshadows something he actually had a point of making, which was that it is a little bit rough, even though these guys get paid a lot of money, and boy, do they get paid a lot of money. But still, to call it slavery is that level of stupid that's almost hard to, reproduce, on accident. I mean, it was a pretty dumbass thing to say, but in case you don't know, Dennis, who makes $13 million per year the next 2 seasons, has made over $100 million in his career. That is worth noting. Did not like the Doncic thing that happened. Thought it was crazy that he got traded and kind of didn't know about it, said even Steph Curry's not safe. But then he said, quote, the NBA trades are like modern day slavery at the end of the day. Everyone can decide where you're going, even if you have a contract. Yes, of course, you make a lot of money. We can feed our families, but at the end of the day, if they say you're not coming to work tomorrow, you're going over there, they can decide that. They got to change it a little bit. He did go on to say, I do think we're blessed and everything else, but give me a freaking break. Slavery? I almost hate covering this. This is such a dumb thing to have to discuss, but I did see people go, oh, no, that's a valid point. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's insensitive to the history. It's just a dumb statement overall. It's not even really a fair one. And if you want to make a serious statement, Dennis, you have to say something that we can actually take seriously. Because saying that being traded in the NBA is like modern-day slavery is like me saying that eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is just like eating a shit sandwich, because they both technically have bread. If you want to have a nuanced discussion, Dennis, about how we don't sympathize enough with the pressure NBA players go through and how tough it is when you're moving families from place to place to place, that is absolutely fine. But when you make ignorant, over-the-top comparisons, it distracts us, and then we end up missing the point from, I think, was actually a valid point you were trying to make, but comparing it to that is stupid. That is the same level of me saying, like, man, I was quarantined for 5 days. This is just like being in maximum security prison. Or, man, the doctor made me quit sugar last week. This must be what it's like to get rid of heroin. I'm being constipated for 5 days. This must be what it's like to be pregnant with triplets. If you reach for your analogy there, it just ends up missing the point in the message. NCAA kids did have a good argument that things were kind of quote-unquote like slavery. South Park, of course, made fun of this famously. But even then, to me, they were more like pimps. NCAA was like pimps to me more than they were slave traders, because if you ever heard pimps talk, they would say things like, hey, these people go out and sacrifice their bodies for you and they bring back all this money, yet you keep it all. What's the deal? Pimps would always say like, hey, come on, baby, I feed them. I give them great clothes. I put a roof over their head. They get to travel. They get to do things. They're not good with money. They should give me the money anyways. That's what the NCAA used to be pre-NIL deals, but now NIL has gotten rid of that problem and has actually gone pretty juggernaut the other way. But I mean, besides the fact that you are paid higher than 99.9% of the entire world population, actual fact. It's all guaranteed. That is the other part of this that's like, give me a freaking break. You have guaranteed money. Yes, you may have to move cities, but the rest of us in the modern day world, in the regular world, us schmoes, if we get fired from a team, we don't get to be moved to another team with our guaranteed money. We have to go find a new job. We have to go be able to figure out things for ourselves. Almost everyone else in the regular circle of life world in the job market has to fend for themselves when a team doesn't want them anymore, all the way up to like CEOs. Even they usually will have to answer to somebody. Steve Jobs famously got fired from Apple because there's a board of directors. There's almost always a circle of life for the rest of us. NBA players, once you sign that contract that gives you 0.01 higher than everybody else in the entire world as far as the money that you make, you are still guaranteed to make it even if you have to move. So comparing it to something as significant, horrible, and just ridiculous as saying it's the slave trade just takes away from the point completely. It makes you look like a jackass. It makes me look like a jackass for even having to discuss or explain why this is a stupid statement. Dennis, you should know better. You are better than this. You own a team yourself in Germany. And so this is just, in the end, again, if you want to make a serious statement about a serious issue that the NBA players go through when they are traded multiple times, fine, but you have to make something that we can actually take serious. What you said here was ridiculous, and shame on you for saying it. It was really, really dumb, and, it kind of helped me when he got traded to be like, well, oh well. That's come on. Slaves, give me a freaking break. Moving on. Last couple things. Getting close on time, I know this, but I got to cover it because it is the Super Bowl this Sunday. I'm done with the trade deadline.
Super Bowl time.
It's the Super Bowl this Sunday. Sunday. In a rematch, the Philadelphia Eagles go to the Superdome in New Orleans to try to stop the three-peat, the Chief Pete. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Taylor going to be singing somewhere in the end zone. Can they stop the three-peat? We'll find out this Sunday. Problem is, if you'd hit this picture here, I don't think it's much of a game because I got the Chiefs winning just like they won the last 2 years.
We're gonna win. We're gonna win.
What do you want me to tell you? I've been saying this for a while, but give me a freaking break. I'm sorry to Gilly, the fan who's been going viral. I'm sorry to Eagles Nation and everyone else out there. I don't think anything's changed the entire year. I have said from the beginning, is Patrick still Patrick? Is Travis still Travis? Is Andy Reid still on that team? Have they already won 2 in a row? Are they still good? They're actually better than last year. Cool. I got the Chiefs winning. I know it makes it boring. I know it makes it unfun. You got to break down and get into the, this and that. And the Eagles look really good this year. Eagles looked really good a couple years ago when they played them. It wasn't even that long ago. They just played each other. And same shit I heard before. Oh, Eagles are 14-3, and they got, Gainwell and Smith, and Hurts is a stud and everything else. Yeah, they lost. So now that they're doing it again, they got 14-3, I think, again. And they're playing the Chiefs again, and they got a great running game and this and that. Yeah, they're probably going to lose just like they lost last time. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I hate having to be the bearer of bad news, but I'll give you some actual reasons in case you want them. This is just a quick synopsis. You go to a Super Bowl party, reasons you can say, look, the Chiefs are going to win. They have the experience and the history by far. And, they know how to win clutch games. The Chiefs just this year have won 12 games, 12 by one score or less. 12 games, one score or less, including the Bills game, just a little AFC Championship. They are far less injured than the Philadelphia Eagles. They only have 3 people on their injury report. Eagles have 10, and there's actually a sickness going through the Eagles locker room that has also become problematic. They can stop the run, especially this year. Spagnuolo-led defense stops the run to the tune of just this season. Derrick Henry and Bijan were both held under 50 yards by this Chiefs run defense. They've been a top 10 rush defense all year. And Jalen Hurts, the second part of that two-headed running monster that Philadelphia has, hurt his knee really bad. He even said, I'm going to have to wear a brace. He will not be 100%. That really hampers the one thing the Eagles do very well, which is run the ball. The Chiefs also improved their offensive line this year, along with their defense, along with adding weapons galore between Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith on the O-line. They added, Hunt. They got Juju. They got Hollywood. Of course, they still have Kelce. They added DeAndre Hopkins. They are better in almost every position, and Mahomes is still Mahomes, especially when it is time to get it done. Third down. Nobody does better than Patrick Mahomes on third down. Matter of fact, 90 QBR on third down. That is number 1 in the NFL, just like the last game against Buffalo. 3rd and 9. Needed that 3rd and 9. He got it because he always seems to get it. He knows how to execute. He's calm under pressure. So between that, their O-line better than last year's Spagnuolo defense. They're far less injured. They have more experience. They have more history. They know how to win close games. They just beat him a couple years ago, and I heard the same shit before with Philly. I don't know what to tell you. The Chiefs are going to win.
We're going to win. We're going to win.
I've been saying this for a minute. Hit the video here for me, Mateo. This is from week 8, from November and week 8. The Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. This year is boring to me. The only team that even has a chance to give them a run is the Buffalo Bills, as far as somebody else to maybe even put a dent in this perfect season. And even if they do it, once it comes to playoff time, again, they are so good in the clutch. Mahomes is so good in the clutch. Keep winning clutch games. You need everything combined to win all those things. You need coaches, you need quarterbacks, you need clutch, you need luck, you need defense. They got all of it. They're going to win. Chiefs are going to win again. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry. Taylor's going to be celebrating in the end zone somewhere after they win. Patrick's going to be flexing. His brother's going to be doing God knows what. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. This year is boring to me. This is like when Alabama was running their things in college. This is like when the Patriots kept continuing to win over and over and over. It's a boring conversation. They are 8-0, and they haven't been playing that well. They are going to win again.
We're going to win. We're going to win.
It's stupid. I don't tell you, this is, again, that was from week 8, and as you can see over the year, I'll repeat, they've won 12 games this year by just one score, and yes, they've been fluky, and yes, there's been luck, and it's the refs, and it's Vegas, and everything else, but it's also the fact that in life, you will find this out, that winning just isn't earned, it is learned. They have won 12 games by one score this year. They only have a plus 59 win percentage for their 15-2 record. That was the lowest in NFL history. To give you an idea, the 14-3 Eagles had a plus 160. They kept barely winning. And yes, it was all fluky little things here and things there. But even in the playoffs, shit hasn't changed. Do you know the Kansas City Chiefs are not top 5 even in the playoffs in total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, defensive yards allowed, or turnover differential, and yet here we are again with them once again a favorite to win the entire thing, because guys like Patrick Mahomes don't seem to lose in the playoffs. Mahomes is 17-3 in the playoffs. His only 2 losses that were major came to Brady. 5,557 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in the playoffs. In the 7 opportunities that Patrick Mahomes has had to lead a game-tying or go-ahead drive in the final minute in regulation or overtime in the playoffs, do you know how many times he's completed those? All 7. Only one to ever do it. His third down QBR in the playoffs is actually 98, which is higher than his number 190 QBR in the regular season. He's even more clutch on third downs in the playoffs. They are just, what do you want? What do you want? Eagles fans, I hope you do it. Well, kind of I do and kind of I don't, because Eagles fans are kind of assholes. But I would love to not see the Chiefs win again. I would love to see a new dynasty, and I would love to see them, not get away with the doink for the division and everything else to get there. But they continue to show that no matter what you do, it's going to come down to the end of the game. It's going to come down to Mahomes and a big third down. He's going to convert it just like he has before, just like he did to y'all a couple years ago, just like he did to Buffalo, just like he did to everybody all season. They've won 12 games by one score. If it's close, I still got the Chiefs winning. I think they'll actually beat them out a couple touchdowns, and that's just what it is. Now, as far as MVPs, I want to throw this in quickly because I know I'm getting short on my schedule here, but hit this for me. Super Bowl MVPs, I will say, this is a year that is maybe a defense. If you want to look for a long shot, a lot of people like to make bets. I will throw this out, the fun facts. If you're trying to make a good kind of long shot bet, if you don't want to go with Mahomes, which is always the favorite, that there are other guys out here that could make an impact, and that it is a little bit more up for grabs maybe than other seasons, because Mahomes has actually been winning as a unit, and really he's only completed big downs here and there. He really hasn't blown the world away with his stats. But to give you an idea, for the MVP award in the Super Bowl, the quarterback has won 15 of 25 since 1999. Only 5 of those have been wide receivers. Only 4 of those have been defensive players. And no running back has won in the last 25 years. This might be the first time that happens. So Saquon, who's actually kind of high odds still, it doesn't get you that much money. I think a lot of people think he could be the difference maker when you consider, too, that Hurts has got the knee hurt. Kelsey and Worthy are up there as well, Brown. But I want to throw in the defensive long shot this year for the MVP. Now, it should be noted that every time, the 4 times the last 25 seasons, a defensive player like Donald or others has won the Super Bowl MVP, it's had to be blowouts. I think that if either defense can get to the quarterback, it is going to be that level of significance where they can blow the other one away as far as they can get on a run. If they can get just a few big sacks here or there, which no one's been able to do on Kansas City, and it's kind of hard too, of course, with Philly, but Hurts is not as mobile as he used to be. I look at guys like Jalen Carter and Chris Jones as some big long shots that could pay off heavy. Carter's like plus 6,600. I think Chris Jones is even more than that. You got Smith, of course, at linebacker. There's some guys in there that if you want to take just a Hail Mary, on somebody that could pay off big, I might go defense this year because of everything like I just said. Mahomes hasn't really been the stat king he used to be. There's a lot of offensive guys who might get kind of all even amount of stats. And if anybody can get any pressure on the quarterback, that really is the key to the whole Eagles situation. If the Eagles want to win the Super Bowl, you're going to have to get to Pat. As all playoffs, Pat has only been sacked 3 times in like almost 120 dropbacks. Nobody can get to him. If the Eagles can get to him, they have the ability to then turn them over quickly, run the ball down their throat. Hurts maybe make some big plays and blow things up. And next thing you know, a defensive player might be able to get 4 or 5 sacks. They'll have to be, have to stay in the pocket longer than he's used to. Point being, go with a defensive guy this year if you want a long shot for MVP. It doesn't happen very often. I think this might be a good year for it. Now, the last question and the final one that I got to get to, and then we're going to call it a day. If Mahomes wins, because like I said, I got the Chiefs winning. I think they're going to win outright. I will not go against a team that's won the last 2, that has Patrick Mahomes, that has the clutch players that do, and has the success they've had over the last season when you consider they're better than they were last year, and they won damn it last year. But if Patrick Mahomes wins, this is always the big question. Where is he in the GOAT status? Where does Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes in the upper echelons now rank? Hit the video here for me. If Patrick Mahomes wins his 4th Super Bowl, does he become the new GOAT? It's a good question. It's a good question. If Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, does he become the new greatest of all time? I will still have to say that Tom Brady beat him twice, and an AFC championship and a Super Bowl matchups matter to me. Brady beat him not once but twice head-to-head. Brady also has still won 7 Super Bowls to his 23. That, of course, is on 2 different teams, which is also a Tom Brady record by himself. Mahomes, though, if he does win, is 4-9 and a three-peat, the only one to do so, with only 3 now to go to catch up Tom Brady. Mahomes is on a way faster pace. I will also throw that in at age 28. He has more playoff starts. He has more playoff wins, 15-3 to just 10 versus 1. He has a higher playoff completion percentage. He has 41 touchdowns at 15 touchdowns to Tom Brady at the age of 28. He has 7 game-winning drives to Tom Brady's 5. He has 6 conference championships versus 3, 3 Super Bowl MVPs versus 2. Regular season as well, and career Mahomes at this early age is already passing Brady. He has a higher win percentage than Brady, 77.1 to 75. But Brady has had to play 3.5 more games as far as a career longer. He's played 3.5 times longer than Mahomes had. Now, Mahomes does have the higher YPA. He does have the higher touchdown-interception ratio and completion percentage. Also, I think it should be noted that Pat does have the higher playoff percentage, win percentage, than even Tom Brady. A lot of people don't realize that. 82.4% win rate in the playoffs for Patrick Mahomes to just 72.9 for Tom Brady. But again, in a third less amount of games, 48 to 18. Patrick is on pace for the GOAT status. That should be the easiest way to synopsize this. Patrick Mahomes is on pace, but he's still got a long way to go to catch up to old Tommy. Now, he might have the greatest 8-year run of all time, but Brady is still the all-time leader in Super Bowl wins with 7, Super Bowl MVPs with 5, most career passing yards, most touchdown passes, quarterback wins, most Pro Bowl selections. He is still the first unanimous MVP of all time. He is a 3-time regular season MVP. He's the only Super Bowl MVP for 2 different franchises and the only quarterback to win the Super Bowl on 3 different decades. He is also the oldest Super Bowl MVP at 43 years old. He beat Patrick Mahomes in his prime, not once, but twice, and on 2 different teams, even though you got to give Patrick Mahomes the credit that at age 28, he is on pace to beat Tom Brady. He's still got 15 years, and even if he wins this one, 3 more Super Bowls to go before I can ever put him above Brady on the all-time GOAT mountain. You guys are getting a little caught up in the moment. Even if he wins it, he's still got a ways to go to catch up old Tommy softballs. I got to go. You guys have a wonderful week. We'll see what happens with the NBA trade deadline and Super Bowl. If the Chiefs actually get upset, I will not be upset about it. But you guys enjoy yourself, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.